What do we mean by a digital twin? So in our experience, the term digital twin doesn't have a single meaning. So to some, it's a visual model of something. To others, it's a mathematical model for simulations. The way we use it is an ontology-based approach where we have entities such as people, objects, locations, events, files with relationships linking them. It's topical from Peters. So our platform also has an abstracted data layer to manage time series data from any source. So we provide basic dashboard visualizations along with some advanced analysis and reporting capabilities and an option to automate these. So anything more advanced is provided by third-party products which access the digital twins via the APIs. So we've been working with energy assets since 2012, and we've expanded our model over time to service many end customer environments and requirements, so including hospitals, fire stations, factories, retail centres, airports, ports, and more. So using a digital twin allows us to understand the context of what energy devices are being used for based on what the customer's type is, the location, and even the user that's accessing the system. And we can then tailor the outputs accordingly. So our model already supports most renewable and non-renewable energy types and all the related sensors. So adding new types to the system, because it's a digital twin, we can perform that in a live environment in a matter of minutes. So a new type of energy appears, it comes into our model very, very quickly. So the devices that we use send data in a variety of ways and frequencies, and working with them requires different approaches to visualizing the data. So we're going to look at some of the reports and dashboard widgets that we use to manage this data more efficiently via a digital twin. Content and so on, and some of them contain test data. So this report shows a weekly condition of specific energy asset types that are installed at sites across a customer's entire estate. It's about 200 and something sites. The digital twin is queried to analyse the data health and the values of the assets at each site by the different types of energy you see at the top. And then we show an overall status and a per day breakdown if the health of that site isn't good. So green is good, the rest is some problem. It lets them focus their discussions on just the problems in meetings. So the power of a digital twin was highlighted when we needed to identify which main term contractors service which sites, the split between North and South London, like I say, over 200 of them. So to do this, we added a concept in the ontology of a main term contractor, and then we added relationships between those contractors and the sites. What we're then able to do is in the report query the ontology and color code the sites based on which main term contractor. So it allows the managers to very quickly keep the right people in the loop. We also use standard visualizations of data across lots of periods, historic periods. So users can quickly compare entities within the model that share the same characteristics, so like for like or similarly likeable entities. A common utilization of holding this historic data is to provide actual versus expected analysis, so predictive style analysis. We can utilize this historic data held in the system along with any other attributes the model knows about to predict the usage automatically at the start of each year. So they don't have to key in necessarily what their targets are. We can pre-calculate based on what was January like in the previous years, what's the weather going to be like in the coming year based on the the models we've got. What this does is it gives another validation point for asset health that can be automated. Some customers utilize the APIs to generate visualizations on screens in their receptions, in control rooms, or on websites. So they can query the digital twin and extract the data for their assets as they need. The example here is a common one that shows how solar PV installations are being utilized to reduce consumption of bought or purchased energy. So this can be used to optimize energy to get better use out of the solar installations. So for example, if an organization is generating more during the day, as in this case, you see the red is the export on the graph, they can try and find activities that are running overnight that they could run in the day on the free electricity. But it lets them see an overall bought energy versus generation versus export of PV. So sometimes checking individual data points to highlight anomalies produces false positives. It's quite often a thing, if I use this much water in a half-hour period, it's a leak. In this case, we're monitoring a port in the UK, and it's all their water pipes, and we're looking for leaks. So we can define in the model what kind of usage we expect over a period, and then we can adjust this for events we know are happening, such as when ships appear at the dock and then they take on drinking water or clean themselves. It looks like a leak if you look at individual points. So if we know those events are taking place in the ontology, we can adapt our model to not trigger alarms. So defining the expectations in the model, it also allows us to adjust based on the dates that we're running. So if we know things are happening in a particular month, we can preempt it. And this particular report has been running over 10 years now and adapting. It's resulted in savings of many tens of thousands of pounds in leaks that have been detected by this particular system. Again, we colour code to draw attention to problem areas, and we also send separate versions of this report that only highlight where the red errors have been triggered, and we do that on demand. So where we've got more robust monitoring, we're able to enhance the model to track even more variables. So in this case, we've added targets to specific assets to track the flow rate. It's a much more high resolution model. It involves converting the data from a water meter's unit of measurements to a different unit of measurement. So from cubic meters to litres per second of water that's going through the pipes. And we do this on the fly. So like I said, we have a data layer. We're then comparing this versus the expected KPIs and highlighting where there's issues. Could be by the days of the week and so on. So the data in this example is from our test system, which is why the percentage on target is 0. And this is a really good example of a digital twin's power versus a piece of software that's dedicated to a purpose. So we can create different representations of an asset with custom characteristics. The underlying data is the same. We don't change that. We're just applying customizable conversions in real time to meet a specific customer need. And then the final slide here, we've got digital twins queried to produce invoices for tenants for a variety of use cases. So we've got the typical invoicing for shared resources in office building, a Regus style, but also rental of infrastructure, battery usage on sites and things like that for EV charging. So different invoice styles can be created in the ontology depending on what assets are present. We have things such as addresses, the customers, the bank details, terms of business. And creating all this as a new type, if we need a new invoice type, we can do it in minutes. So being a digital twin as well, we can adapt to things such as VAT or standing charges or pricing structures that might change in a live system and with historic versioning. And we can also manage multi-language. So we do a lot of invoicing where we need a Welsh, for example, version of an invoice attaching if a customer is in Wales. So we can geospatially look at the location of the customer and automatically adapt the invoices to generate that. And then finally, we've adapted this sort of semantic approach that you get with an ontology to allow us to integrate with large language model AI. And that's proving to some very powerful results as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Question for yourself, Ben, is do you know the overall cost savings to the ports relating to water leaks?
So I don't have a figure from them. They just said many tens of thousands, but I would imagine we're talking over 50,000, let's say, to 100,000. And in terms of the cost savings, you could say they've saved hundreds of times more than it's cost them to use the software.
Brilliant. And I've got another question, Ben, for yourself, is can you expand on your integration with a large language model?
Yeah, sure. So we use, as Peter's described as well, ontologies are very powerful and the semantics of that. So we can convert from the representation of the digital twin to natural language, train the large language models. We can say, for example, this site is a port. A port has ships. This ship visited this port on this date. It used this much water. So we have lots of natural language. And then you can start to query the large language models. And we're working with Amazon AWS with their new Bedrock service to provide that at the moment. But it works with anything.